Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Emma and today I'm starting a new YouTube channel where we will talk about China from different perspectives: economics, politics, culture, education, technology, and many other topics that you may be interested in. First, let me introduce myself. I was born in northeastern China. After completing my undergraduate studies, I come to the United States to pursue my master's degree. After graduation, I stayed and worked here, and I've now been living in America for about 12 years. Today, China has become a major force in the world, and there are many strong opinions about it online. Some people portray China as an evil dictatorship where people live miserable lives, and some claim China has already surpassed Europe and the United States in many aspects. The reality, as usual, is much more complicated. Extreme opinions tend to attract attention, but most things in life are not simply black or white. My goal with this channel is not to praise China or criticize China. Instead, I want to provide some more balanced and nuanced perspective based on my personal experiences and observations. I also welcome different opinions. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. I hope we can have respectful and meaningful discussion in the comments. Now, let's jump into today's topic. Today's topic is one of the hottest discussion about China in recent years. How did China become a global leader in electric vehicles? In 2025, electric vehicle sales exceeded traditional gasoline vehicle sales in China. Many people in Western countries are surprised by how quickly China became a leader in the EV industry. The truth is that China began investing in this sector much earlier than many people realize. About 20 years ago, car ownership in China started growing rapidly. At that time, the key technologies behind traditional gasoline vehicles, especially engines and transmissions, were dominated by automotive companies from the United States, Germany, and Japan. Chinese automakers knew it would be extremely difficult to catch up in the short period of time. Electric vehicles, however, offered a different opportunity. The core technologies of EVs are batteries, electric motors, and electronic control systems. Since this was a relatively new industry globally, the gap between countries was much smaller. Chinese policymakers saw this as a chance to compete with other countries. As a result, China invested heavily in the EV industry, more than $25 billion over 10 years, including subsidies, tax incentives, land, financing support, and other benefits. What we see today is not the result of a few years of effort. It's the result of more than 2 decades of planning, investment, and industrial policy. Whether people agree with these policies or not, it's difficult to deny that they played a significant role in helping China build the world's largest EV market and one of the strongest EV manufacturing ecosystem. One aspect about this story that I found interesting is the relationship with the political system and long-term industrial planning. Look, I won't deny that China is, on many levels, an authoritarian state, and there's no doubt that democracy has incredible merits. But looking at the democratic countries over the last decade, it seems like an overwhelming amount of time, money, and energy is spent just on the act of campaigning. At this point, candidates care far more about winning the campaign than they do about improving the nation. We have to face a hard truth. Winning an election doesn't automatically develop a country. Instead, it often feels like a game of who gets the most financial backing from big capitals. And once big capital helps a candidate reach the presidency, what's the return on that investment? More often than not, presidential power is used to make these same wealthy donors even richer. Take the US, where a president can serve a maximum of 8 years. A 20-year long-term strategic policy like the ones we see in China is virtually impossible there, because every new president wants to distinguish themselves from their predecessors. They rarely continue the previous administration's work. We have seen this clearly with the back and forth between Biden and Trump, where policies are constantly reversed or discarded, creating a lot of domestic instability. I'm not saying election is inherently bad. In fact, I know that most people in China heavily criticized and disliked the decision to remove presidential term limits from the constitution. But it's hard to ignore that American elections are increasingly become a contest of who has the deepest pockets. Many people don't know this, but when the government first launched its pilot programs for green energy, it was plagued by massive fraud. Companies were doing everything they could to trade the government out of subsidies. We're talking about enterprises swindling hundreds of millions of dollars by fabricating production numbers, falsifying sales records, and forging vehicle certificates. Some automakers would literally strip the batteries out of subsidized EVs, install them into brand new vehicles, and apply for the subsidies all over again. Others sold vehicles directly to their own shell leasing companies just to pocket the cash, leaving fleets of empty cars to rot in vacant parking lots. If a scandal like this broke out in America, it would trigger a massive political crisis, face fierce public backlash, and likely kill the entire program forever. But in China, the government simply stripped the trading companies from their subsidies, revoked their manufacturing licenses, and kept the policy moving forward. Actually, China rolls out a lot of policies in this way. Some successfully hit their targets, while others completely flame out and waste billions of dollars. From a policy making perspective, it's hard to label it purely good or bad, but it does show one thing clearly. Chinese leaders view the country as their own long-term enterprise. They have a deep motivation to make it stronger. They may not always prioritize the day-to-day comfort of ordinary citizens, but they are relentlessly drive to make the nation richer and more powerful. That's all I wanted to share today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and let me know what topics you'd like me to cover next. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video.